I'm Chucky. And I'm your friend to the end. Heidi fucking ho. Ha, ha, ha.
And welcome back to Chucky Queers. It's our weekly coverage of Don Mancini's sci-fi show. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we are discussing episode 2, Let the Right One In. So yeah, we're clearly doing a list of movie titles for episodes this season.
Indeed, yes. This is an interesting one because obviously it could refer to Chucky having infiltrated the White House or the fact that our trio have managed to snuggle up to Grant.
Oh my god, but girl, like, okay, did I not call that Miss Fairchild was, like, gonna be on the out soon? I just didn't think it was gonna be this soon.
This soon? Yeah, I definitely have it in my notes. Oh, points to Trace for calling this, but it's disappointing, right? I mean, yeah. I think the reason it's disappointing is because we like the character, we like the actress, we didn't want this for her. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure we needed to kill her in this particular episode, but we'll see if it raises the stakes.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, to be fair, they're getting into the White House a lot faster than I would have anticipated.
Yes.
Like, this seemed very easy, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. I don't need us, like, wasting time before we finally get here. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you noticed this. So again, I'm peek behind the curtains, everyone. In our screeners, they had this marked as episode 2, but like the production number was 303. Yes. Whereas next week's episode 3, was 302. So I wonder, because that's the Jennifer Tilly episode, if it's just Jennifer Tilly material, so they could have aired in any order. And I wonder why they opted to do this one first.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if they're trying to up the ante and make it feel like, okay, we've got some narrative progression, we've gotten to Washington, we've got our entry into the White House, and obviously it's a killer ending to this episode where Chucky once again calls our trio and says, hey, it's going to be the bloodiest Halloween yet. Yeah. So that's a great way to end it, but I think after these episodes air, I might go back and watch them in this original order and watch this one third to see how it plays and how that affects the pacing.
See, that's interesting. I didn't mind this episode. That was fine. But I kind of wish it was like part 2 of a 2-part premiere. Like if they aired the first 2 episodes back to back, I think this might play better.
Yeah, because I definitely messaged you and said, I don't know how much we're going to have to talk about. This feels a little bit slight. And it's not that it's not enjoyable to watch, because Chucky is always fun, but this definitely felt like a transition episode. You know, we're setting things up. And even though we're killing a couple of people, and I got to say, the bloodshed is so much better this season. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, that throat slit, which at first I was like, okay, it's a throat slit. Oh wow, yeah, they're really pumping the blood out. That's really cool. Oh my god, her head's going backwards.
Honestly, it was the exact right escalation. Yeah. I knew that they knew that was going to be our reaction, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, it's a throat slash. Oh, it's 2 throat slashes, and then her head totally comes off. And it's fantastic.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did I say last week that this was Sarah Sherman, or did I say this offline to you? Because just a heads up, this is not Sarah Sherman, but Sarah Sherman is going to be in this season because she's in the trailer for the show.
Okay, I don't remember that, but sure. No, this character's name is Sam. But yeah, I mean, she's not a character. I actually thought we were going to suggest she was having an affair with the president, which we do find out he has had an affair.
But it's all gravy.
Well, it apparently seems fine, but I couldn't figure out if this was her in those pictures or if it's just someone else.
You know who I think it is? I think it's the reporter from last week.
Gretchen?
That's who I think. I think that's why she's so mischievous.
Oh, interesting.
And why she's like, the president of transparency, huh? Because that didn't come out publicly, as we find out. But at least the wife knew.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I made a note in my notes that the president and the first lady have a very good relationship. Like, they seem to get along. I actually really like the sexual chemistry between Largene Charostecki and Devon Sawa. But yeah, I mean, clearly they have had some marital issues in the past.
Which, you know what? That can bring people closer together.
Sure.
He doesn't have a ton to do in this episode, but she does, because she's brought in on like an espionage mission with Mr. Pryce, like a
Mm-hmm.
super secret service agent.
Yeah, I got the impression that he's some kind of fixer, right? Because he says, I've come in to clean up. Because, of course, he's talking about the body from last week, Teddy.
Right.
So he's on damage control. But then, of course, we've got 2 more bodies to clean up by the end of this episode. So we've got Sam, and then, as we mentioned, science teacher.
Yes, science teacher. Yeah, I guess because this one split more 50-50 between the plot lines, though. And again, we at least bring them together much quicker than I would have anticipated. But we're definitely spending a lot more time with our central trio in this episode. But I guess maybe before we get to them, do you want to talk about this Mr. Pryce and the First Lady stuff?
Yeah, I don't really have strong feelings about it. It's always nice to see Gil Bellows. He's a Canadian actor. Obviously, most people are going to recognize him from Ally McBeal.
I mean, most people of a certain age are going to recognize him from Ally McBeal, but I am definitely one of those people.
Me too. Yeah, as you said, he's like a dark and mysterious figure. He also seems to have a relationship with her. Like, there's a very clear reason why he didn't go to President Collins.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that's just because he would have insisted on being transparent, whereas he knows the First Lady's maybe not as much on the up and up with being transparent.
Yeah, and I hope he's kind of smarter than like any other like cop in this type of show would be, because I mean he finds Chucky's footprint in that closet, and he doesn't seem to like brush it away. He's kind of like, okay. There's a footprint.
He's a weird character. I'm struggling to get a read on him because he's also cracking one-liners about, oh, sorry about your antique. Sorry about this rug that we're going to have to confiscate.
Yeah.
I will say, I love how much the show both tries to maintain a certain amount of like logistics, like believability, but then also has a group of cleaners show up to the White House in the middle of the night and take a giant body-sized chess out and drive it away.
Just because they can.
Yeah.
I'm at least happy Troy Secchi's getting more to do this season than she is last season. Like, she's like a proper main character this season.
Actual main character. Yes. And she's killing it. I'm loving her performance.
Absolutely. But yeah, this is very much, it's more continuing setup, because again, like, we don't see this reporter from last week. Henry's barely in the episode this week.
Yeah. Vice President Spencer, if I've pegged that guy correctly, he shows up only for the one scene where it's basically just don't let him into the Oval Office. Which is also like, why would the vice president be going into the Oval Office in the middle of the night?
Maybe we'll find that answer out in 2 weeks, maybe not next week.
Right, yes. I mean, none of these are deal breakers. If nothing else, it's just kind of, okay, we're still spending a lot of time at the White House setting some of this stuff up. And I think part of it is that it's going to be very exciting when we get back to this Halloween party, presumably in a couple of weeks.
Well, and that's the thing, because I really do think we're going to be doing just the Jennifer Tilly and Nika show and Caroline show next week, which means that the next episode, which is the mid-season finale, is going to be this big Halloween party at the White House.
Yeah, which I'm not going to lie, we said they need some kind of big episode to hold us over until 2024, and a Halloween party at the White House with Chucky sounds like a really fucking good time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what about our trio, right? Devon and Jake still don't get to fuck, although I did really, really like the walk-in scene.
Yes, Jake, your shirt is on inside out, and also now we get to have the talk.
And they already know who's going to top and who's going to bottom. Well, I'm sorry, Devon knows who's going to top. Okay.
What does that tell you? To me, that was, so Devon's going to bottom.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Because I feel like, I mean, not to like get too consenty about it, but I feel like both people should consent when having sex, obviously. But when you're consenting to a position, I feel like the bottom is more likely the one that has to be like, yes, I'm okay doing that.
Yes, I'm volunteering for this because it's more work for me.
Well, I mean, he was like, we'll talk later. And I was like, I think he's been practicing on his own.
Oh my. But also when? Because these kids apparently don't even get 10 minutes alone.
No! And it's all 3 of them in one hotel room. I was like, really? But you know what? I really appreciate Miss Fairchild. It's like, you know what? Y'all are teenagers. You're going to have sex. Let me just go through it. And granted, she doesn't really get through anything. But she just hands them the packet. So it's fine.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how the show handles this kind of stuff, because they've obviously been very candid about, trailblazing, breaking some new ground in the depiction of queer youth. And previously, this has been a love story, but the season 3 arc for these two characters is very much okay, they're of a certain age and they've been at this for a few years, and now they're DTF.
I mean, also, like, when I was a teenager, I could have used a TV show like this to be like, hey, like, here's people talking about having two boys talking about having sex. Like, I didn't have that when I was growing up.
Yeah. I mean, not to put a date on this recording because we are doing it a bit in advance, but here in Canada today, we had nationwide LGBTQ protests against teaching gender identity in the curriculum. Thankfully, they were actually outshouted, outmatched in volume. Like, it was 40-1 for people who were pro gender identity in the curriculum. So like, we were having none of this bigotry, but it just proved to me that shows like Chucky are still vitally important, especially for younger audiences who are like, oh, I need to see a positive depiction of young boys who want to fuck because it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Are they already teaching gender identity in schools? Oh yeah. We don't have that in Texas.
Except you don't live in Texas anymore. You got to figure out whether or not you can slam Denver and Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know if Colorado does it or not. I mean, I just think the U.S. in general isn't like big on teaching gender identity, but maybe in California.
Yeah.
I guess really the last bit is Lexi and Grant. So do we think they're setting them up as like a romantic couple as well?
I'm interested in this because Lexi seems slightly open to it, but at the same time, she kind of acts like she's, okay, I'll take the bullet. I will distract Grant so that we can do the things that we need to do. But I really appreciated, I mean, we've had such a journey with this character and how much we fucking hated her, wanted her to die in season 1, came around on her, loved her in season 2. And these emotional beats where she makes herself vulnerable and says, you know, I've lost somebody. And then Grant says the same kind of thing to his mom. I was just like, the show is so good at finding those key moments to offer some genuine pathos, empathy, that kind of stuff.
In a show that is known for being a bloody, like, campy romp, like, the fact that it does nail those emotional beats really is a testament to its everything.
Yeah, it's like within 10 minutes, we're going to watch a woman get fucking decapitated and blood just go everywhere in the Oval Office. But the show also manages to tug at your heartstrings. I'm really impressed with how they're able to negotiate that tone.
And piggybacking off what I said last week, again, I'm really surprised and impressed with how they're kind of subverting my expectations with the Grant character. Like, he definitely does play kind of like an asshole when they meet in the coffee shop.
Yes, he does.
It does feel like a front. Like, I genuinely like this character, and I look forward to knowing more about him as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I mean, even when he's basically laying into his mom, because they've had a couple of spats in just the 2 episodes. I don't think they dislike each other, but that's where the friction lies.
Yeah.
And I like that he said, you know, this is what real kids get to do. They get to have friends, because she doesn't approve of these kids because they're bad PR.
Well, okay, I'm also kind of like that. Okay, now that Miss Fairchild's dead, because and she died in the White House, and that woman helped cover it up. So these 3 now orphans again are just like on their own in the hotel room. I was like, okay, so is the White House going to adopt them now? Like, it's...
I definitely thought that. I was like, oh, so we're just going to be living at the White House for the rest of the season. I don't think so. I think this is going to be a very condensed timeline.
Okay, see, I think that Grant's going to be like, hey, Mom, like, they need a place to stay. Just put them somewhere in the White House. But although maybe it's a thing, too, where I mean, I don't know if they already like written all of season 3 or not before the strike happened, but maybe it could be like, oh, 3A is the White House, and then we're going somewhere else for 3B.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know what Chucky's going to do. And of course, I keep bringing up Hannibal, but it's partially because like Nick and Tosca is working on this. There's other factors at play which like link the 2 shows together. But, you know, Hannibal famously started to do half seasons in its 3rd season as well, right? So sometimes it's a smart decision to just say, okay, that part of the story is over, and we either time jump or we move locations so that we can tell new, fresh, interesting stories.
Yeah. I do want to point out the 2 before we kind of like wrap this up. So there are 4 screenwriters on this episode, not just the usual 2. But we got Catherine Scatina, Amanda Blanchard, Alex DeLille, and Rachel Paradis. But the director of this episode is John Hyams, a.k.a. the guy that directed last year's Sick and 2020's Alone that we both really liked.
Yes. Ironically enough, Sharif Bohannon and I are also covering Black Summer, which he was the main executive director and executive producer and director of, and that show was fucking terrible. But it was because they literally do not care about characters. Like, the action was amazing, but they had no characters and no narrative. It was the weirdest thing.
That is very weird.
Jamie King's zombie show.
Oh, you told me about this. Oh, okay. I thought you told me to watch it, so maybe I'm glad I didn't listen to you.
It started well, and then it goes off the rails, but not in a good way. Anyway, if people want to hear me talk about that, seek out those other episodes. But yeah, I mean, he's a great director. Yeah. He's got a fantastic visual eye, and set pieces are his forte. So this makes sense. Yeah,
makes absolute sense. I'm looking forward again to see who we have in the next 2 episodes. But yeah, I don't know. We've already kind of predicted what we think is going to happen, so I guess we can cross out Let the Right One In.
Indeed, and cross out Chucky queers.
Atlas Avenue, a long stretch of road that encompasses everything the city of Kenneth Heights has to offer. Neon lights, traffic, crime, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and the craziest of characters. My office was above it all. My name is James Locke, and I'm a PI.
Hello, Mr. J. How the hell you doing today?
Good, Edith. Nearly every year I have a new case. New people to meet, new clues to discover, and new problems to solve. But I do it the old-fashioned way. No technology. Nothing post-1950. Hell, I don't even listen to podcasts, but you should. Atlas Avenue Beat is a spoof of the film noir genre with goofy characters, tons of wordplay, and non-stop raunchy humor. There's also 3 whole seasons out right now with more on the way. Just search for Atlas Avenue Beat wherever you listen to podcasts or visit us online at bloody.fm.